At this time, the mayor will call to order the regular city council meeting for 6 p.m. on Tuesday, March the 1st, 2022. City Council Chambers, 201 East Nash Street, Terrell, Texas. We have in chambers with us tonight, District 2, Grady Simpson. We have District 5, Tim Royce. I've been told that District 4 Representative Stephanie Holmes Thomas, who's the Deputy Mayor Pro Tem, is running late, but she will join us shortly. And then we have absent this evening, District 3 Mayor Ronnie Velasquez, Mayor Pro Tem, who will not be with us but is excused from the meeting. Our first item on the agenda is invocation. As we listen to invocation, Grady, be mindful of the events that are going on in with the Russia and Ukraine issue. So, yes.
Preserving us and keeping us in good health. We pray for those who are in the Ukraine. God, we pray that you would protect them and guide them and lead them as they try to fight the fight to stay free as a country. And God, yes, we pray for Russia. We pray, God, that your wisdom will impart upon them to do the right thing, not only just for Russia, but for all of the world, and to be an example for all to see. We pray for the city of Terrell. We ask, God, that you would continue to bring us together, continue to help us to go through the pains of growth, and be the city that we need to be. All in Jesus' name we pray.
Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Our next item on the agenda is mayor and council community recognition and events. Tonight, council, we have with us Eagle Scout, who did a project with the city of Terrell. His name is Asher William Baird. His project consisted of the repainting of the gazebo in the middle of Terrell, and it will help in the looks of the park. We certainly appreciate that. He will come forward in just a moment and tell us a little bit about the project and how it went, but I did want to bring to your attention that the total number of hours that was spent on this project was 131 man hours. So if you would please come forward, Asher, and address the council and tell us what you had, and congratulations.
Thank you. The gazebo in Terrell, it was a lot of hard work, but it was worth it. I got my eagle, and I thank y'all for letting me do it.
Wonderful. So noticed how many other scouts participated in helping you get this done, or was it Piers? Who was it that was helping you?
Yes, sir. Pierce and Jamie came every now and then. Okay. And then there was 2 other scouts, not including my brothers, that helped. It was Reese and Ryder Norris.
Okay, wonderful. Does anybody have any comments or questions? We're going to present something to you here in just a moment. I would like for our District 4 councilwoman to come forward if she would. She's here on record, Stephanie Holmes Thomas. No. She's good. So just for the record, she is here, and at this time we'll give Asher William Baird a gift from the city, and then I have something for you as well. very proud of you. We appreciate your hard work, being a good citizen for the city of Cherokee. Right? And then I noticed we also have your sister. Who else was with you?
My brother Nathan, Alicia, and
Well, welcome to the city of Terrell. Thank you for being
Do
here.
you have a
Mike, did
mother to
wanna say
introduce?
and my mother.
Oh, you're gonna be in trouble tonight, man. Well, good. Well, thank y'all so much for being here. It is my honor to recognize Eagle Scouts. We also have with us the Lindsays, who have been here many, many years. And we certainly thank y'all for being here tonight as well. Mike, did you want to say something?
I just want to say that all hail Mom. I've known this family for a long time. It's not their first Eagle Scout, and you guys have a lot to be proud of, and God bless the Baird family. How about that?
So it's the third.
Thank you.
Third
Yeah,
Eagle Scout.
there you go.
390.
Eat them all tonight before you get home, okay?
That's with church here in Terrell. So, yes. Thank you so much. Again, council, would y'all come forward and take a picture real quick? You mind?
Alrighty.
And we'll get a photo for you, with you.
Oh, come on up.
Hey, aren't you yeah, you need to be in here. Absolutely. Scout leader.
I go hide in the back.
Come on, come on, you're here. You want to
No.
You want to go right here?
Come on.
You sure?
I'll hide over here.
Do you want one, Mom?
Yeah, come on in. Is your mother here?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
Hi, Mom. How you doing? I'm great. All right. All right. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Now I'm gonna get an autograph, man.
Asher, I'm going to give about a half-an-hour presentation on government bureaucratic issues. Lot to talk about policy manuals and that sort of thing. You gonna stay for that?
Thank y'all very much for being. Our next item on the agenda is to hear remarks from visitors. Do we have any? We do not have any, so we'll move on. The next item is the adoption of the minutes. 6.1, discuss and consider minutes from the regular city council meeting on February 15th of 2022 and February 22nd of 2022. Is there a motion?
Mayor, I make a motion that we approve the minutes from February the 15th and February the 22nd as presented.
We have a motion from Tim Royce, District 5. Is there a second?
A second.
Have a second from Stephanie Holmes Thomas, Deputy Mayor Pro Tem District 4. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, let it be known by stating aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion will carry. Our next item on the agenda is discuss upcoming meeting calendars. This is City Secretary Don Stahl.
Mayor and council, in your packet, you have a calendar for March, April, and May of 2022. We will not be having a meeting the week of March 14th, and we will not be having a meeting the week of May 16th. And I will be happy to answer any questions.
Mayor, can I give you a couple other notes on that? We are quite busy with all the growth and development these days, and you can see we have this regular schedule of planning and zoning meetings. Those tend to be absolutely packed with lots going on in them. And then we have, of course, the budget process. This is going to start up fairly soon as well. So I apologize. I know we've had lots of fairly long meetings lately. I would say that we always want to give everybody a chance to be heard, a chance to discuss, a chance to go through all of the information. Staff's here for you guys, and so my comment for you is, if you're seeing things on the agenda that you think, hey, I'd like to have that on consent so that it can process through a little bit faster, we're always happy to take that input. Sometimes when we work and shop an item, If you tell us after we workshop it that, wow, that looks great, let's do that one on consent the following week, that can help us expedite and speed things up. That might be a solution for you. Sometimes we read a lot of captions, and remember also that that's a discretionary action, right? You don't always have to read through all those captions. For some of the confusing one, it's certainly very appropriate, but sometimes that's a streamlining thing to do as well. We always like to react to y'all in terms of how much detail we go through. So if you think we're given too much detail, let us know. If you think we're given not enough detail, let us know. And we'll try to react to you to streamline where we can or flesh it out where we can.
So on that same point, initially, we were scheduled on the first and third Tuesday of the month. And most of us who ran for office, that's what we were thinking we were going to get done. But again, there's just a lot of growth happening, and it depends on how involved you want to be in the process. So think about it and get back with myself or Mike, and we'll figure out a game plan moving forward. There is one meeting that needs to happen that we had to reschedule, and that was the evaluation process for City Manager Mike Sims. I would ask that you look at your calendars and see if we can come up with a date. We need that fairly quickly, within the next 2 weeks anyway. And we've got an evaluation that needs to happen, so.
Mayor, I was
Yes.
going to point, I think y'all had one scheduled for March 10th possibly. I believe there was a workshop that was going to be scheduled on March 10th. That's not on this calendar.
Does that work for everybody?
That was going to be your second meeting originally.
Yes. So, yeah, so what we could do is use that one for the first meeting, and then we'll take direction, the mayor will take direction from you guys and figure out what we need to do moving forward. So is the 10th still good for everyone? Yes? March 10th? Good. We'll do that. If we could get that put on our schedules, please. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is discuss employee handbook updates. Again, this would be City Manager Mike Sims.
So Mayor and Council, this is a cleanup issue that has a long history. For years, we've done a certification pay in the utility department. We established that policy at the staff level and provided that benefit at the staff level. So that was previous city managers establishing a dollar amount, sending it by city manager directive over to HR, and then created that certification incentive. And that's for the A license, B license opportunity for some of our staff in the utility department. A couple of years ago, we started in on the idea of making sure that we gave our incentives and financial rewards to our employees who were doing different things with different certification education. We did a little update of that in January of 2020, and a bigger update to that over the course of last summer. When we did that, we created I would say we created a piecemeal system. And in a way, it was good because we got each individual department what they needed. And in a way, it was not the best thing because we didn't have it sort of unified between all the departments. So something that Carol and I and the department directors started working on a couple of months ago was to make sure that we get this in a more regular fashion. And then it was my thought that instead of having it be a little memo or email sent by the city manager to HR to say, hey, use these certification education pay numbers, I really prefer for it to get adopted as an amendment to your employee handbook. And that gives you the transparency of, okay, when you get hired as an employee in the city of Terrell, you can open up your little binder and you can look at it and say, aha, these are my official education and certification pay numbers and my assignment pay numbers. So Dawn's got agenda item page 25 up here in front of you. This is the one that says assignment pay. This is the one where, okay, you may have a skill set, but unless we assign you to do that, we're not necessarily recognizing it. So the big one here is fire marshal. And so you can see, okay, if you are assigned as a battalion chief to be the fire marshal, then you get an additional pay per pay period. And that's the biggest dollar amount on here. That's $400, and that gets you in line with how much fire marshals are paid SWAT, tactical medic. Okay, those are things where you get assigned to a team. Field training officer, we've recognized that such and such police officer or firefighter might be particularly good at working with the younger officers, getting them trained up, and we want to assign them for a period of time to have that additional pay to recognize the additional work that they're putting in. You can see the bilingual here, and then in the fire department, we've sort of ratcheted up our training opportunities there and create a little bit of an incentive for, I'll mention the one that says Texas Commission on Fire Protection, that's your TCFP acronym there. That's $50 per pay period. That's that really important issue of going out and taking a look at some of our industrial businesses that have genuinely, difficult things or dangerous things or just things that need extra attention that might be stored at a facility. Well, we really need to incent our firefighters to get this certification because that saves us money from hiring third parties, right? And so as we are able to get these different assignments in place, right now, most of these assignments are the exact dollar amount that we're currently paying, so there's not a budget impact. It's more like just recognizing we're paying these. A couple of them were calculated based on annual or calculated based on monthly, so we've made some tweaks and changes here that will cause a couple of little improvements, but it's all very minor. It's like saying, oh, well, maybe paramedic, I think, is an example where we're paying by the month now and changing to pay by per pay period is, in fact, over the course of the year, going to be slightly more money to the paramedics. But we felt like, again, creating a smooth set of numbers that make sense and are easy to look at and easy to track to your pay stubs. You can read the number on the pay stub and have it match the policy. That was an important thing for us. The next page has the education and certification pay on it. This one's more complicated, but if you read through all the notes, it makes sense. And so I'll just go on a column by column basis here. The first one is, are you certified by the Texas Commission on Law Enforcement? And if so, you might be civil service, meaning that you are a line police officer who's protected under civil service, or it might mean that you are, for example, the police chief, or in the future we might have an assistant police chief who is not covered by that. So if you come in as a beginner level, as a cadet, the very first day you start working in our police department, you are just, you might not be certified, right? We might send you to school and get you certified, right? So you spend time going to school, you pass your test, you get your T-close certification. As soon as you get that little bump up of that first tier. Maybe you spend the time to get accredited as intermediate. You get bumped up. Instead of getting 15 per pay period, you get 30 per pay period. You get bumped up again when you get advanced, and then finally at the master level of certification. And again, those numbers are virtually identical to the ones that we currently have. In the fire department, we were calculating those a little bit differently, so those guys got just slightly different ratchet up. I think we were going from 2450 on our intermediate to 30. But again, we just wanted to have some consistency in these tiering levels so it wasn't all over the map. And same thing here. You might start off as a Texas Commission on Fire Protection certified firefighter and be covered by civil service, or you might be one of the 2 or 3 folks who have that certification but don't actually serve in the civil service ranks. So that'd be like Dustin Connor and Shane LaCroix. They have the certification, but they are not covered by civil service. So we want to make sure we wrote it to cover them as well. And then civil service only, that gives us college hours that we can provide a benefit for. And again, we felt like this was an important thing to get regular for both sides of civil service. And again, it's a little bit different between police and fire right now, but this makes it consistent with police and fire. Dispatchers and jailers have a special set of things they can get certified for, so we've shown that here. You can see the old utilities number here. It's, again, slightly higher because it was calculated as monthly instead of biweekly, so they get just a slight bit more money there. And then all other, that's the more complicated one, and basically the idea is if you have one certification or degree beyond the minimum, then great, you're on tier 2. If you have specialty that's particularly noteworthy, or maybe you have multiple certifications or degrees beyond the minimum, then you can be at that Tier 4 level, and then so on down the line. I won't try to read you all the cliff notes on the bottom there, but we're really just trying to spend the time to explain the policy in a clear way on those policy notes. And I can tell you several of the directors helped us beat that up so that we had good language in there. So it's not for voting tonight, but we wanted to go ahead and get it out there for discussion and just be clear about what we're doing. Again, it's minor financial impact, but I think it's a much better transparency and much better clarity for our employees. So happy to answer any questions about that.
I think this gives us a good opportunity to pay our employees their value when it comes to the certification pay and assignment pay. Does anybody have any concern of switching from city manager up to the updated employee handbook?
Looking at our staff, our mix in our community, this bilingual one, you're telling me they get $10 per pay period if they're bilingual and they use, and they're translating infrequently versus getting, 20?
Sure, yeah, I'll give you the difference between bilingual 1, bilingual 2. Right now, it's generally a benefit to us to have bilingual employees. I really think I've got two different types of bilingual employees. Some might be called on to translate occasionally at work with a coworker. Sometimes they might be translating occasionally out in the field. So, for example, have a water department employee who very infrequently translates, but occasionally might get called upon because maybe a business owner is Spanish speaking and they need to talk about a water meter issue, right? Or go in and take a look at some water problem that's happened, some leak that might have happened there. Well, that person isn't really going to translate but once a month or once every 2 weeks or something like that. Then I've got, frankly, several of the clerks around here and 911 operators are also a good example, where at any given moment, part of your job is you don't know if the next person in line that you talk to is going to speak Spanish or English. And you got to be on the fly, ready to go. And so that's really just the difference between bilingual 1, bilingual 2.
So one is translating on a more regular basis than the other.
Exactly, yeah. If you're in the bilingual 2 category, all that's saying is that you're probably doing that maybe multiple times a week, and maybe you might do it 4 or 5 times a day.
And what was it originally? Has the numbers changed, or is it $10?
That bilingual number right now, I think, is at 60 per month. And so, again, we're just trying to get it normalized. So it's a little higher, right? Because I'm doing per pay period now. So if you like net it over the year, there'll be a slight increase there. But again, we're trying to do minor financial impacts. I guess the other thing to be clear about this was that just because of the history about how that's been done in the city, I'll give you the example of court. For years, in municipal court, we didn't provide bilingual pay. Well, we've got a bilingual employee there, and frankly, we have a lot of patrons in the court that need to speak Spanish. And so this is the first time that I'll just say, this is the first time we really wised up and noticed that. Judge Smith brought it to my attention and said, hey, I got a bilingual employee, but we only offer bilingual pay in these other departments. Can I get some benefit for that? And I said, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And frankly, instead of me saying, okay, I'm city manager, I hereby say do this, I just was more comfortable saying, let's just vote on all of this and get this out front and get it adopted as part of your employee manual.
So is the one, you said the individual that made the $60 a month, is this a decrease? Is that what I'm saying?
No.
Based on the pay
See, this is
period?
per pay period now. So we get paid once every 2 weeks, and some of our bilingual folks are getting an assignment pay of $60 a month now.
Mm-hmm.
And so if I give you 40 per pay period, I'm giving you slightly more.
So it's 80 instead of 60.
Right, yeah.
But the bilingual one, they didn't get anything.
Well, bilingual 1's getting 0 right now. Yeah, bilingual 1 right now would be getting 0 because we just say, hey, you don't do it very frequently, so we're not going to give you anything for it. And I just felt like, well, let's at least keep track of, at $10 per pay period, I'm not giving them it's not a huge impact for us, but I keep track of who's bilingual, and that's probably a good thing for us to keep track of.
Mayor, I would say I'm supportive and have no questions.
Okay. Anyone else? All right, so I guess move forward with that, Mike, and then give us something to vote on,
We'll polish
please.
that up just a little bit more and get it
Okay.
back to vote on in a future agenda.
Great, thank you. Next item on the agenda is discuss sanitary service agreement. Again, Mr. Sims.
Okay, so Anthony McGee surprised me with something here recently, and again, just one of these things that come up from time to time. A lot of y'all know Anthony. He's a great guy, and he's worked for us for a long time. He's a contractor, and he last had a contract update with us in 1996. And I thought, well, gosh, I really appreciate Anthony bringing this forward because it is an important thing for us to compensate people correctly. And frankly, he's been charging us the exact same dollar amount per inspection for, 26 years. And so I thought, okay, this is fair. Again, this is just me trying to be transparent with you about what's going on. And Anthony provided this contract, which I'm showing you here. It goes through basically charges for services. And I'll say that there's a little bit of pent-up demand here from Mr. McGee because these are basically 3 times the charges that we have that he charges us for right now. And we think that's maybe going from on the very low side of what happens in the region to slightly on the higher side of what goes on in the region. I'm inclined to move it forward and get it signed. It's got a 30-day cancellation in it. I think the thing it brings up for us, and the thing I've asked Charles to start working on a little bit, is that really after a 26-year relationship, you really have an obligation to take this thing out as an RFQ or RFP. So basically say, okay, fair is fair. We should allow other people to engage with us about whether or not they'd like to play this role. Basically, I'd say in 1996, there really weren't that many people doing this on a contract basis. And we've really seen a change in the market where there's a lot of companies that now do this. Bureau Veritas will probably charge you more than anybody else for doing it. And so I don't think we would go with somebody like them. But there's other entities and other firms out there that do it, and we probably should be running through a RFQ process. So my comment to you is, again, it's not a financial impact meaningful enough to really have to come to council. I'm inclined to get it signed and move it on. And then we'll do a longer procurement and a more formal open procurement, advertise and all that sort of good stuff, and let other firms or other individuals compete for the job sometime here in the future. So any comments or questions about that?
I would say I'm supportive of the RFQ. And then a question, are employment contracts, do they live in the city manager's office or HR office?
Most of these live in either my office or the department head's office. Because they're not employees of the city. We have Carol do a handful of the third-party contracts. And so, for example, when we have a staffing firm that might come in and provide, maybe a administrative assistant who might work in utility billing or something like that for a short period of time, that's often run through the HR department as opposed to being run through the department head. But by and large, these are either department head or city manager's office.
Okay, so I think my comment there is, if, change is a good time for change, so I'd say, hey, let's evaluate best practices. If a contract hasn't changed in 26 years, we probably, an internal member should probably know about it. I think that might be HR. It's up to y'all's discretion, but it's a good time to evaluate best practices.
Very good.
Anyone else? All right, Mike, good.
All right, very good.
Next item on the agenda is business items. Discuss and consider award of professional service for design of Metro Drive improvements. This is our city engineer, Steve Rogers.
Thanks for putting me behind Sanitarian services, man. I appreciate that.
Don't read
My rightful
anything into
place
that, please.
with the mob, thank you. Yeah, thank you. Mayor, the next 4 items are action items, and I'm gonna ask if whoever makes the motion would authorize the city manager to enter into these agreements, please.
Okay,
First one, under item 8.1 is for the design services for Metro Drive. And we discussed this at length last week. I'm happy to answer any other questions. As a side note to this, I'll remind you that we're adding into the reconstruction of Metro Drive, a new roadway that's gonna be constructed, in the in the industrial park, in the Mike Cronin Business Park, that's gonna be added to this for the bid services. And the American Way roundabout out at Crossroads, some modifications are included in this, and then we're gonna try our best to get Temple Street ready and bid that project as well, all at the same time. Those are all shown on this map. The agreement that's in your packet is a not to exceed amount, and it is on agenda page 42. And it is a $210,000 not to exceed amount broken into 2 parts with some lump sum tasks and some hourly tasks, so that if we don't do some of these things, we can not spend that money. And so I'm asking you to authorize city manager to enter into a $210,000 not to exceed amount agreement with Kimley Horn for the Metro Drive project. I'll answer any questions, Mayor.
does anybody have any new questions? Hearing none, is there a motion on item 8.1? A not to exceed with Kimberly Horn for 210.
Mayor, I make a motion that city manager to enter into an agreement with Kimberly Horn not to exceed $210,000 for Metro Drive project.
We have a motion from Grady Simpson, District 2. Is there a second?
Second.
Have a second from Stephanie Holmes Thomas, Deputy Mayor Pro Tem, District 4. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, let it be known by stating aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion will carry. Next item on the agenda is 8.2, discuss and consider award of professional services for the Los Lomas Parkway and US 80 Interchange study. Mr. Rogers?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Again, this is another professional services agreement. This is for Los Lomas Parkway at US 80. This is a project that is included in all of our long-range planning we've had for 20 years at the city, and it is funded from the county transportation bond program. And this will be a pre-construction agreement to get everything ready so that we can get into full-blown design for this. Is getting acceptance for this from the railroad and TxDOT, so we can build an interchange there. And on agenda page 53, you have your dollar amount, a not to exceed amount of $642,000 for this 8 tasks included, including task number 7, which is to do some of the quiet zone analysis east and west of this proposed crossing at Los Lomas Parkway at US 80. And I'll be happy to answer any questions, Mayor.
Does anybody have any new questions for Steve?
Yes, Mr. Rogers, you said including, I didn't quite catch the last one. You said it was inclusive for another
Task number 7
task number 7.
is a quiet zone analysis for 4 intersections at and near this proposed grade separation that we're including is what we're considering phase 2 of our quiet zone study. We're embedding into this contract as well. Since they're going to be doing the work in the area, it makes sense to include that task with this design services as well.
Again, council, this is a not to exceed $642,000 with Kimberly Horn.
Excuse me, Mayor.
Yes.
Are we to include item 7, or that's just?
Yeah, that's
All
included in
tasks.
there. I was just pointing that item out. That's one of the 8 tasks in there is the quiet zone deal. The rest of it's all related to the intersection proper. Quiet zone is down the railroad track, either side.
Okay. Thank you, Steve. Is there a motion on 8.2?
May I make a motion that approve 8.2, not to exceed the amount of $642K.
$1,000 with Kimberly Horn. Is there a second?
Second.
I have a second from Tim Royce, District 5. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, let it be known by stating aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. 8.3 is discuss and consider award of professional services for Creekside intersection and improvements. Mr. Rogers.
The map is on the next page there, and the map is highlighting two intersections. We own property at the corner of Poetry and State and Walnut, and we want to ensure that this roadway is built to improve safety at that intersection. And so we're asking for some TxDOT compliant, city standard compliant revisions to that roadway at that T intersection there with those three roads, Poetry, Walnut, and State. And we're also gonna need to, excuse me, at some point going forward, to improve the intersection of State and Ninth to allow for additional turning movements there as that intersection is starting to reach an unacceptable level of service. And so we're gonna look at that as well, since we're in the same area with the same consultant. This is a $55,000 not to exceed contract from the Capital Improvement Fund. I'm sorry, this was $55,000 last week. Good news. Saved you $6,000 from last week. This is $49,000. So we've got a revised agreement. We talked to them after the meeting, and they changed their agreement and lowered it down to $49,000. And we talked about $55,000 last week, so I just want to clarify that. So we're asking you to authorize city manager to enter into this $49,000 agreement with Kimley Horn for the Creekside area studies that need to be done.
Again, this was presented to us last week in detail. Does anybody have any new questions for Mr. Rogers?
New question.
Yes.
Is it at all possible that Kimley Horn would also look at moving the traffic from Walnut Street and taking it north of Eulalie? And so we're talking about a totally new roadway north of Eulalie.
Eulalia. Eulalia.
Eulalia?
Eulalia.
Okay.
Eulalia.
I'm kind of excited to hear Steve Rogers present it. I think he's familiar with it.
Eulalia.
So, just a question of,
It's a
hey,
tongue twister.
are we, I'm gonna, the E Street, are we set on the improvements here, or have we discussed looking at, moving the movement north?
No, we are part of, this is interrelated to this, is traffic impact analysis related to the Creekside addition. And TxDOT is not in, you're talking about making a four-way intersection there? Is that what you're talking about, doing extending Walnut into the undeveloped area? Is that what I'm hearing you say, Tim?
Well, I'm just kind of curious. Well, and actually, I forgot that there was a state road involved in the system
Yeah,
there, so.
we've talked to TxDOT about this, and this is gonna be a very difficult thing to make work as a four-way intersection. And we've talked to the developer, and the best development strategy now going forward with the roadways they're planning and the way the development is set up is to make that area a kind of a not a dead end, but a small enclave there on the corner that is going to be better for the residents and not have that roadway pass through there, because it's going to wind up being a cut through for school traffic and other things that's probably not necessary. And the traffic impact analysis that we will get before long will confirm that.
Okay, that is fine.
Are you good, Councilman?
Yes.
Thank you. Anyone else? Again, this is a $49,000 not to exceed number with Kimley Horn. Is there a motion on item 8.3?
Mayor, make a motion that we authorize the city manager to enter into an agreement with Kimley Horn for the Creekside intersection improvements in an amount not to exceed $49,000.
We have a motion from Tim Royce, District 5. Is there a second? I have a second from Stephanie Holmes Thomas, Deputy Mayor Pro Tem, District 4. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, let it be known by stating aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion will carry. Our next item on the agenda is 8.4, discuss and consider award of amendment number 1 for the Stallings Park drainage and sidewalk improvements. Again, Mr. Rogers.
Again, Mayor, this is a $30,000 not-to-exceed agreement with McManus Johnson. They've done the other work on designing Temple and doing some work around Stallings Park. And this is a fill-in piece that we felt like was necessary. And again, it's a $30,000 not-to-exceed amount for design services. And if you'll look at the map at the very end of your packet on page 79, it shows you the areas they're going to study. There's a couple of areas around the Mayfield Temple area that are adjacent to Builder's First Source that we want them to ensure that we're getting adequate long-term drainage. There's a connection piece between the Mayfield Runnels Temple intersection that's in pink. We want to make sure that there's drainage and ability to build sidewalks and fill in that gap there. And then downstream of the park is kind of the gold area that we want to ensure. We have some existing drainage easements there. We wanted to make sure they incorporate that into some park improvements and some drainage improvements we're doing around the park area proper. And so we're asking for this. We think will be the last agreement for this. This is all being funded out of the Stallings Improvement Fund and the Public-Private Partnership Fund. And I'll answer any questions.
No, sorry. Does anybody have any new questions for Mr. Rogers on this item?
Mayor, I'd just like to say, this is a great project I've been waiting for a long time to come through. And I'm just happy to know that all of our parks are being improved in some kind of way. I don't know if I ever seen that in all my years of living here, but I think it's amazing that we can address all the parks almost simultaneously. So, great job.
Thank you, Grady. Again, this is a not to exceed 30,000.
Also say from a clarity standpoint, pardon me for interrupting,
No.
just for sake of clarity, when we did our financial package with Builder's First Source coming in, remember they had zoning authority to build at that location. And we said, okay, you know, we're obligated to allow them to develop. But what we decided to do was to take sales tax revenue from the sale of lumber at that location and invest in Stallings. And so the concrete street that will come up on Temple, these sidewalk improvements, some of the other improvements in that neighborhood, all of those improvements are happening because council was farsighted several years ago prior to Builder's First Source coming in and say, hey, let's dedicate those sales taxes to this part of town, and let's make this neighborhood a neighborhood we respect. Let's show respect to the neighborhood, and I think that partnership's worked out really well for us. And we can't wait to get Temple turned into a concrete street, and all of this drainage and sidewalk improvements and the associated improvements around the park. That funding comes from that sales tax set aside. So I just want to, go back to that original agreement several years ago and mention that as part of this conversation.
Yeah, I too want to thank the council for supporting these partnerships that allow us to do this type of work in areas that probably wouldn't see money spent, but it's always a pleasure for me and all of us as we get these things done and accomplished. So thank you so much for your support. Again, this is a not to exceed $30,000 from McManus and Johnson Consulting Engineers for the city manager to execute. Is there a motion on item 8.4? As well, is there any further discussion? Do you have any comment? Motion on 8.4.
Mayor, I make a motion that we approve item 8.4, not to exceed the amount of $30,000.
We have a motion from Grady Simpson, District 2. Is there a second?
Second.
I have a second from Tim Royce, District 5. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, let it be known by stating aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
Got an abstain. Aye? You have an aye? All right. Any opposed? Motion will carry. Next item on the agenda is to adjourn into executive session in accordance with Section 551 of the Texas Government Code to discuss the following. Section 551.071, consultation with attorney pending or contemplated litigation. Section 551.0. Government coming up, I mean, not a tournament, but a game with State Hospital at some point.
Do we? Allison's face says otherwise.
No, we're run rolling them this year. We're gonna run roll. Well, they had look, they were doing a celebration. Yeah. We're gonna reconvene into regular session and consider action, if any, on items discussed in executive session. Is there a motion? Hearing none, we are adjourned.